Welcome back to Between Sundays, the podcast where Christians are trying to figure things out where most of life happens. I'm Bobby.
I'm Justus.
And today we are talking about how people can slowly drift or walk away from God and really how to come back. Sometimes life feels that way. Sometimes we don't feel like we're at the place where we once was with God. Maybe that relationship has changed. But one of the things we're talking about today is it's not God that's the one that's doing the drifting, it's us. And what are the things that happen in our life? What are the kind of the signs that we can look at and see what's going on? But the most important thing, how can we get back to that place that God desires us to be? And so definitely an episode looking forward to today. I think it's very relevant for nowadays. I think there's a lot of people that, I don't know, I think there's a place of, we kind of are throwing away the very word relevant for nowadays in our relationship with God and understanding that God will do his part, but I think we got to do our part too. And if we're not careful, very relevant for nowadays. I think find that drifting, find that place where we're not where we desire to be. So we hope this will be very relevant for nowadays. I think there's a lot of getting near the end of the school year, and you can tell it around here. Justus and I both teach Bible, very relevant school. Justus teaches leadership, and they are checking out. So
We went ahead and did our final exams this week so that they didn't have to do them while everybody else is having to take their test. And then it dawned on me this afternoon. I was like, I'm not gonna have anything to do with them for the next 2 weeks while they're taking tests. So we'll find something to do though.
I know. I think I looked today. I've got three more teaching days, which you should too, because I think we're both A days. So 3 more teaching days.
Thank goodness.
Do something. Yeah. Well, so the fun part with my Bible class is, of course, I've got 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And our seniors, they just went on their senior trip. They're down in Florida Keys, which, like, our senior trip was like cold New York. How they got Florida Keys is beyond me. But it never fails when the seniors leave and everybody else mentally checks out.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, they're not here. Why do I need to listen? It never fails.
Yeah.
And I was telling the other day, my senior trip, I remember we went to upstate New York, which was fun. Don't get me wrong. We skied, we did bobsled, we did all that stuff, rode snowmobiles, all that stuff. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. But our senior trip was the first week of the second semester. So
really,
yeah, neat in a sense that we got a little bit longer of a Christmas break.
Yeah,
and everybody else was back at school, and we weren't.
Mm-hmm.
But then we still had the whole semester.
Yeah,
and then they're at the end, and they cause everybody else to just mentally check out.
Yeah,
leave here. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what's better, what's not. I don't really know. So
we had junior senior trips that they took every year.
You had to share with the juniors?
Yeah, so we had junior seniors because it was a small. I mean, it would just be me by myself. My junior year it was just me too. So it'd have been just a me trip.
Well,
so
I can get that.
So we had junior senior trip just because it was a smaller school. So I took my junior trip to Colorado, and we went to Colorado Springs, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then 2020 was my senior year, and so all those little memes where it's like, I didn't get that's me, that's me. So I'm like, man, I just, and I hope he doesn't hear this. We raised money for our senior trip, and then never had one, and I was like,
did you get to keep money?
No, I don't know what happened to it.
At least for the troubles.
I mean, exactly. We sold so much stinking candy and then didn't even get none of it. That's okay.
I know. My wife was talking the other day.
I just get to complain about it all the time. Yeah, anytime I get to bring it up, we didn't have graduation. I'm that person.
The year of 2020.
Yep.
Heather was talking about trips she missed out on in high school. One was her 6th grade trip, or not 6th. We were 6th grade to DC. Excuse me. They were a little bit later. Well, the year they were supposed to go to D.C. was 9/11. So
that's not funny.
Funny.
We gotta cut that part.
Funny because not happening for a bad situation.
Just unfortunate.
Unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then the senior year, they were going somewhere, and then like some girl got kidnapped on a cruise ship or something like that.
So wherever Heather plans a vacation, just don't go to that area. Don't try to beat them there. You know, just stay far away.
I guess so. It's like, what's his name that comes in when the weather, like if he's there, the Jim Cantor or whatever, when he comes in with the weather.
I don't have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, I'm old.
I know.
I know.
You try to relate on so many things, and I'm like,
I can't, like, you talking about, I graduated in COVID. I'm like, so old.
Which is crazy to me because, like, it's crazy to think COVID was 6 years ago.
I know.
I mean, that's...
Supposedly we have another one coming around.
No, man.
I got articles.
I sure could use another pandemic. That'd be really nice.
Heather was talking about yesterday. She was reading articles. I think it was. They said they thought it was like only something with animals, and then some dude got it, come off of a cruise ship or something.
I mean, I don't want another pandemic. We gotta scratch this whole episode.
They said they thought it was like only something with animals, and then...
No, I mean, I don't want another pandemic, but I mean, it was kind of nice just sitting at the house all the time, you know. So.
Well, it is till you got homeschool. Like only something with animals, and they're not a good teacher.
So that's why I said I would like to sit at the house.
When you realize you don't know math and all that stuff, praise the Lord, our school doesn't teach like only something with animals, and didn't taught that at all.
Oh my goodness!
Anyway,
you got your golf hat on too.
I do that. Yeah, we went to the Truist Championship this past week, and it was awesome. We had a great time up in Charlotte, North Carolina.
The only thing I know about golf, and I've tried my hand at it. My Sunday school teacher, shout out Brother Hamilton. You'd have to know Brother Hamilton to know this, but he was an avid golfer. I mean, kind of like I want to say once a day, but I feel like that's a little exaggerated. Like he went all the time. He was good.
Yeah.
And he could not stand when people said, "I'm going golfing." He said, "You don't go basketballing or baseballing." He's like, "You go and you play golf." And so we would always unintentionally say, "Did you go golfing this week?" No. Whoa. I did not go golfing. I went and played golf. And he would always correct us every time. So that's about my extent of knowledge for golf.
Yeah.
Just don't say golfing. You just play golf.
But some days you're not playing golf because you're horrible at it. You're just golfing.
Like some days you're fishing, not catching fish.
Exactly. The people that say I'm going golfing, they have a valid point because they're probably not playing golf. They're probably golfing and they've lost every golf ball they have.
He probably was going to play golf.
Yes, he was the only one.
I was always golfing.
Yeah, that's right.
Attempting to.
No, we had a great time. It was up in Charlotte at Quail Hollow Club. Beautiful course, great day. Of course, we got to see, reigning Masters champion Rory McIlroy there.
Yeah.
We took.
And see, I was gonna text you, and I was like, "No, he can't take his phone in there," because I was assuming that was for everything, and then I saw pictures that people posted from there, and I was like, "How'd they get their phone in there?"
That is only Augusta National.
That makes sense.
Any other place you can take phones, cameras, all that stuff. Just the Masters.
We need to adopt that for everything. Just you're not allowed to have your phone in there.
It would help. It would help a lot of things, especially Wednesday night youth group.
That would. Just start there, like welcome to Augusta National.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I'll preach in my green jacket and all that stuff.
Yep.
Just no phones. No, I mean it.
$1.25 hot dogs.
Awesome. But no, I mean that's only there.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great day. We got to take Casey up there because his senior year and him playing golf on the golf team, all that stuff. He'd never been to a PGA tournament at all, and so. We go to number 10 because the top guys were going off on the back nine, and we're like, he's all excited because he knows he's coming up, and all of a sudden, like, you got to know Roy. Roy just has this strut when he walks down the fairway, and so like Casey's like wigging out because he's like right there, all that stuff, and he was on the other end. Well, then we went up 3 holes to number 13, par 3.
So you're like just trying to beat them to
you're
each.
Getting ahead of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you're like him, everybody's wanting to follow him. You just come off a win of the Masters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's following you.
Yeah.
So we missed them playing some. We purposely didn't watch them on a few holes and went ahead to 13. We got greenside at 13. Nobody in front of us were at the rope.
Huh.
And then he walks up and he's like wigging out. He's like, oh my gosh, he's like right there.
Yeah.
So it was fun, because I've been to a few of them growing up. So, but to see people's reactions, it was pretty cool. But beautiful day. We got rained on at the end, like drenched.
Oh no!
But it's all good.
The hat made it, so that's
the hat
good.
made it. Yeah, the hat made it, and so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, it was a good day. It's always fun to get out and enjoy the weather, and go check out something you do.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. We enjoyed it.
I wouldn't have had fun, but I'm glad y'all had fun.
Well, yeah, teach their own. All that stuff. So, but today, talking about walking away from God and how to come back. Again, it's really one of those episodes where we've got to get to that place, that acknowledgement of really starting out with being honest with ourselves. I think that's a big thing. If you're going to be at the place where you realize drifting is happening, you see it happening in your life, you've got to get honest with yourself. Because here's the thing, nobody just wakes up and decides one day, I'm either done with God or I'm walking away with God.
Sure.
Or walking away from God.
Sure.
Excuse me. It's a process, something that happens.
My pastor back home always would say that nobody has ever fallen into sin.
Yes.
It's always it was never something that you were just walking and randomly stumbled upon and then, fell.
Yeah.
It was something that it was the progression of choosing to continue going this way and walking into it instead of falling into sin.
Yeah.
He always took words very serious, like very literal. So we were not allowed to say, I just fell into sin. It was, no, you were walking and making that progression towards it. So,
well, I think the biggest thing is so many times we go to the moment where it is like either made known or the most evident. And what we don't realize is it happened way back.
Sure.
In a subtle way.
Sure.
I posed that question to my ethics class this past semester. I was talking about a situation of a guy that, not to go into all the detail, but bad situation. Guy was a youth pastor. Just kind of wrong situation he was in. And I asked him, I said, when did he mess up? And they were like, well, when he chose to do that. I said, no, when he put himself in the situation in the first place, months prior to that.
Yeah.
And that's really what drifting is, or that stepping away from God, that walking. It's a subtle thing, and the moment it doesn't seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure that guy, when that happened, didn't seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
But the more we let that go, and the moment it doesn't seem, you're talking about falling away and things like that, that subtlety. I'm kind of reminded here, especially the moment it doesn't seem, you can either go on one side of Lake Hartwell and you're above the dam, or you can go on the other side and you're below the dam. But obviously, right at it, they want you to be careful. It doesn't seem, especially if that water's flowing, things like that. Because, there have been people that have been hurt, things like that, and getting near the moment, it doesn't seem. And it's one of those things of like drifting. You're not gonna drift away from that.
Yeah.
You're gonna drift. The moment it doesn't seem, unless you're intentionally doing something to get away from it. Literally on a boat. If you don't moment it doesn't seem and pull away from it, you're going to drift towards it. And I think it's the same way in our Christian walk. We've got the place we've got to get to is understanding that if I'm not making intentional steps towards God each day, I'm going to be drifting.
Yeah.
I'm going to get away from Him. And so it's a subtle thing. It may not feel out of place when it first starts to happen. It may feel normal when it first starts to happen. But it's one of those things we got to understand. We've got to come to the realization. Kind of two sides. If you are drifting, acknowledge you're drifting. But two, if you aren't, if you're where you need to be, that it can happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we I think it's kind of funny. We went swimming one time on Lake Hartwell, and we were in the pontoon and shut the engine off, and we're sitting there for a minute. And we came to what we thought was a dead stop. Well, we get out and start swimming, and the boat starts getting, a little bit away. So we swam a little closer to the boat. We were staying with it a little bit, and it's a lake. I mean, there's no current, there's nothing there, but it dawned on us that on the other side of the pontoon that we couldn't see was us getting very, very close to someone's dock and having to get on the boat to then put it in reverse for us to, scoot the boat back. And it was something that we didn't choose to decide, I'm going to hit this person's dock.
Yeah.
It was something that left unchecked was something that was dangerous. And you said earlier, the intentionality, that word intentional is something that we've lived our daily lives so lackadaisical of just kind of flying by just the wind and kind of just doing whatever, that we've lost this almost sense of being intentional with everything we do, and realizing that there are things that are trying to pull you away from Christ.
Yeah.
And left unchecked, they will do a good job of that.
Yeah.
I don't think the devil has a game plan to set you or I off course in one day.
Yeah.
But he'll play longer games, knowing that if I can just start getting you just to get away from what it is, and you start, turning around, and then you don't know where you're at. Yeah. And it's a scary place to be when you feel alone. We a lot of times we'll look around, and David even says it, I feel like you're so far from me. Well, the reality is God's not far from me. I'm far from Christ.
Yeah.
And I've allowed myself to drift away. And this episode's not something that we want to attack anybody that has gone or drifted away. We want you to hit the point of realizing that this is what it is.
Yeah.
Because any of us are susceptible to it. Any of us can, probably will, and are going to at some point start drifting away. But the quicker that you realize, hey, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, the quicker you can get back on track. And, realizing that you're not going to drift away in a day. You're not going to get back to where you were in a day.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not anything that is saying, okay, we're the standard of this.
Sure. By far from
it. Because, again, it can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've got to keep humility in this, of understanding I can go this route.
Yeah.
I think that's where we see a lot of disappointment, I think, in the church and in kind of this faith community, because we either see preachers that we didn't think could go that way, or they almost carried themselves if they couldn't go that way, or people we respect, or people that we have high regards to, and then all of a sudden we see that happen, and it kind of, oh man, if what kind of chance do I have if they do it? Well, the reality is that any of us can fall into that. It's just, I think, again, humility and not trying to get ahead. There's a lot we want to cover today, but it's just in humility saying, all right, Lord, I need you every day.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna make sure I'm where I need to be, I need you in everything that I do in this life, because what we're talking about today is not rebellion.
Yeah.
We can see rebellion. We pretty much know when rebellion happens when it comes to Christian life. I mean, you can pretty much see somebody make that intentional choice.
I'm choosing to leave. Yeah.
I'm choosing. So we're not talking about rebellion today. We're talking about that neglect.
Yeah.
That.
Oh crap.
Yeah. Well, it's so. It's like this. I just literally come out of class with Bible talking to him about this. There's a difference in just avoiding bad things and actively living for God.
Yeah.
And I posed that question to him. I said, what's the difference in just avoiding bad things and actively living for God? And at first they kind of looked at me like weird. And I said, I can avoid bad things all day long, but if I'm not actively living for God, I'm still, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of there.
Yeah.
And it's that neglect. It's that, okay, I'm not doing anything bad, but at the same time, I'm also not doing what I need to be doing. And again, it's kind of like, again, going out on a boat. I can avoid a pylon, all day long. But if I'm not doing something to counteract that.
Yeah.
To to get away from something else, or actually turn the wheel or steer the boat or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
I'm still going to be susceptible to fall
Yeah.
into danger.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people, they're just kind of in this middle ground of it of, well, I'm not doing anything bad. Well, but what are you doing towards it as well? I was looking up one of the verses that we were talking about, Hebrews chapter 2, verse 1, and it said, therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. And again, it's what we're talking about here, these things that we've heard, when it talks about how to live in this scripture and, what God gives us, and maybe a sermon, whatever it may be, those things that have been put into our life, right, whether we've heard somebody preach it or we've studied the Bible, whatever it may be, is being intentional of those things, being earnest in them, letting those things affect our lives, so we don't let those things slip, so we don't let those things get away from us, and then obviously we get to the place of drifting in this life. So again, not talking about the rebellion today, but what are we doing to not just avoid the bad, but be intentional of the good?
Yeah. Well, I think of the verse, Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. Paul writing, and says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth to those things which are before. And he goes on to talk about, I press toward the mark of the high calling. And it is something that you can't put aside the things of the past or the things that cause problems and not reach with the other hand.
Yes.
And it's something that has to be done at the same time, because, like you said, you continually playing defense will not give you a good, successful Christian life.
Yeah.
The Bible is not there just for the defense, but it's there for you to play offense as well.
Yeah.
It's, Brother Mark says a lot of times, the armor of Christ is a lot of defensive gear, and we have the Bible as the sword, as the offensive. And really, we see a lot of times, and I know especially I see a lot of times when I start to drift is whenever I stop playing offense, and I only try to choose just to play. I'm not doing wrong, but I'm not doing right. Yeah. And I'm in this middle ground of saying, I'm not as bad as this person, but I'm not doing everything that I can do. And then you start getting a lot of pride and a lack of humility. And it's the small things that have caused you to start progressing to drift. Yeah. It's does that mean skipping your Bible reading for a day is going to cause you to commit capital murder? Well, no.
Hope not.
But I hope not. But the reality is, one day causes a little ease the next, and a little ease the next, and I hope maybe we get back, but then we remember, and before we know it, you have a problem where we can't get back on track. I hope not. We struggle to get the flesh to do things that are spiritual, and it is this war within you. And that's what I love what Paul is writing to the Philippians. He's saying you can't just set aside those things and not reach. Yeah. There's still a cause here. While I'm playing defense, I have to play offense at the same time. And I think a lot of times we see drift in life because we are just not doing the wrong thing, but we're doing the bare minimum we need to do to get by.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And today, I think one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to with this is a little different in the sense of kind of steps and signs.
Sure.
We've kind of alluded to that stuff, but like pretty clear direction of what we're talking about today, and a couple ways of asking ourselves, how does it happen? I think, if we kind of gave it some categories today. How does it happen? What does it look like in our life? And then how do I come back from that? Mm-hmm. But I think necessary. I think, again, a little different than what we've done. But sometimes you need those kind of clear-cut steps or clear-cut, information to see what's happening. So as we kind of dig into it, how does it happen? I think that's the first place you got to get to. How does this happen in my life? Again, we're talking about offense and defense and this and that. What is taking place in my life or in things around me that would cause me to drift? One of the things we were talking about was it starts with the little things.
Yeah.
Drifting starts with little moments. It's not a big thing. Again, drifting is not, if not that I'm trying to say this is a good thing to happen, but drifting is not as if it was a car getting T-boned, right? It's not that just blatant, just hit you in the side, what's happened, kind of thing. It's something subtle. It's that little veer, that starts to happen in our life. It could be less time in the Bible. It could be our prayers are more occasional, or maybe just, Lord bless this food in Jesus' name, amen. It could be church starts to become optional. All of those are things that, as they progress, can start to be the little things that lead to bigger things.
Yeah.
Drifting or walking away from God, whatever you want to call it, is one of those things that, if not careful, it's not just little additions, it's multiplication. It compounds on itself. Yeah. And, I know we alluded to COVID earlier. That was a big thing to where you started to see where people are at, because as churches started coming back in, you started seeing people choosing. Now, I'll say this. If you got to use online and live stream because of, health issues or homebound or sick that Sunday or kids are sick or whatever it may be, obviously it is a great tool.
That's why we do it.
And we thank you for it.
Yeah.
We literally have families at our church because they've seen us on live stream and started coming to our church.
Yeah.
Again, we're not talking about the moments that you need it. We're not talking about rebellion where people's just like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. We're talking about those that are like, you know what? It's nice that, more and more they're like, oh, I can sleep in a little bit and I can still catch a church service, or, I'm tired today and all this stuff. And coming out of COVID, especially, you started seeing people's heart in things. You started seeing the depth of their relationship, or the little things they allowed to happen in their life.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they're like, well, I'll just keep my online church family, and you started seeing that decline in people coming back to church.
Yeah.
And again, it's those little things that you start to see.
My thing with that too, and to kind of chase a rabbit that's there, a lot of people, when they say that, have the argument that, whether church being inside of us and the church being the people and not the building. And I agree with that. The best argument I've heard for that, though, is the people that love Christ love the things that Christ loves. And Christ loves the church. Mm-hmm. And you cannot live a good, successful Christian life. I feel like that's the mantra to this whole show, is helping you live a more successful Christian life.
Yeah.
And I don't believe you can live a more successful Christian life by not loving the things that God loves. And God loves the church. He loves the assembling, not the getting together, the assembling, when the ear comes together and the nose comes together and the eye comes together, when the body of Christ comes together. Yeah. He loves when we assemble, not just coming together to be together, not just coming to see each other, but us coming to do our part and do our job within the church. That's really where you start to see community, and you start to see the need for what we do. Yeah. And so again, there's a reason we have cameras running on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We don't hate that people use them, or we would take them away. We love that people use them.
Yeah.
But they can't be there to be your lifeline. They have to be there to be your crutch sometimes.
Yeah.
Of saying, I hate that I'm missing, but this is the next best thing, not this is what I live off of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's times I've had to use them. I mean, I've been
Sure.
sick or
Sure.
we take a vacation, something like that.
I always say I'm going to use them, and then I end up.
Well, I mean, we heard the story the other week when we were at Haynes of the lady.
Yeah.
She was at a ball.
That was crazy.
At her grandson's ball game.
Yep.
And a woman was watching the live stream over her shoulder. Ended up having the phone the rest of the night. Woman got saved right there.
Yeah, that was a crazy story.
That's all. It's crazy and awesome all at the same time. And again, they're good things. They can be very necessary things. But again, it's just that place of are we making the choices? Really, I'll say it like this: are we making the excuses?
Sure.
That's the best for us in our life.
Yeah.
That it's better for me to not spend time at church.
Yeah.
It's better for me or I just don't have time to get in my Bible, or I don't have time to pray this week. It's when we start making the excuses, not making choices like true choices, but making the excuses, that we start to see the little compromises that happen. And again, it's those little moments. It's not the moment that you walk away by any means.
No.
It's the little things that we allow to just compound in our life.
Yeah. When
eventually we are at this place where we, like you said earlier, we look and we're like, I am not what I once was with God.
Yeah.
It's those moments that hit in our life.
Yeah.
But looking at that, again, drifting starts with the small compromises. Another thing we were talking about, we kind of jotted down through a lot of this, is distraction replaces devotion. And that's probably a real big one nowadays, because we live in a distracted world.
Yeah.
We live in a world that is so much stuff going on, so many things that are happening, so much stuff that is really pining for our attention.
Your phone's going off right now.
The irony that you picked that up and I'm looking at it right here. But no, I mean, it could have been me pulling it out of my pocket. But we live in this society that there is no shortage of something going after our attention.
Yeah.
Whether it be phones, whether it be people, whether it be entertainment, there is so much stuff that can distract us. And I don't believe that's obviously an accidental thing in this life. I believe the devil is very much using that as a massive avenue to get Christians distracted from what God has for us. But I say it like this, and I have to challenge myself with it. How many times in the morning have I woke up and grabbed my phone?
Yeah.
Woke up and looked at my notifications before I even, and I'm not trying to sound super spiritual in here, but looked at my notifications before I even thanked God for letting my eyes open.
Yeah.
Or before I grabbed a Bible, or before I spent any time with Him, have I, grabbed my phone, and all of a sudden this distraction is happening in my life. And again, if I'm not acknowledging it, if I'm not getting honest with it, then it's just going to keep going. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse in my life. We live in a society that something is always going on. And again, what I'm getting at through all this is you've got to get to the place where we stop saying I don't have the time. Okay? And I know I just made a lot of people mad by saying that. But we've got to stop making
You ticked me off right there, that's for sure.
I'm done. No, I mean, but seriously, it's not a valid point.
Yeah.
Okay? I love everybody listening. It's not a valid point.
Yeah.
It's not a good reason. It is an excuse. We don't have the time. No, we're just not making the time. We're not being intentional with our time. And we'd be amazed at what is distracting us day after day that's taking away from the time that God deserves in our lives.
Yeah, no, we make time for whatever we want to make time for. And I think that's a battle that we always will struggle with in this body.
Yeah.
Of the natural man trying to do spiritual things.
Yeah.
And really, when you get your priorities out of line of allowing your body to have superiority over your spirit, when we start getting things out of line, I think we really start seeing the especially for me, start seeing that progression of saying, okay, I'm not where I could have been had I just kept going the way I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And it's easy. It's easy to allow yourself to get distracted, and it's work for you to stay on task.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we take the easy way. I know, at least I do. I would rather, I would a lot of times rather live comfortable than, put in the effort. And it's something that you've really got to work on. It's not something that I can't make the decision for you. I wish you could make the decision for me. But, you have to make your mind up of saying, this is what I'm choosing to do. And so it's something that not careful, you can reach that place.
Yeah. And again, I know we've said this a lot, and we'll say it much more through this. It's not this rejection of God. It's just a replacement of Him.
Yeah.
In our lives. And I challenged a discipleship group a couple of years ago, really in this very thought right here of you cannot plan your day and put all this stuff in it and then hope God fits somewhere.
Yeah.
You gotta make Him priority, and then plan everything else around that. And what happens, I think, a lot of times with distractions and things like that is we've got our place for all of that stuff. We've got our place for our phone. We've got our place for entertainment. We've got our place for our schedule. We've got our place for all of this other stuff in life. And then we try to find the one little corner that God fits in, or the one little crack or crevice. When really it's, God, you're first.
Yeah.
You take any and all time that you want.
Yeah.
And then I'll put everything else into place.
Yeah.
Where it fits. And so when we're the flip side of that, and you're just trying to cram God in somewhere, you're always, I say always, most of the time, the distractions are going to outweigh God's time.
Yeah.
In our lives.
When we do discipleship, a lot of the questions that we ask are, when are you doing your Bible reading?
Yeah.
When are you doing your prayer? And if it's after I eat breakfast, your breakfast, some days you're not going to eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Some days you're going to push breakfast off until 9 o'clock and something else is going to come up. And it's not the fact that you are rejecting Christ, but it's the fact that you're replacing Him with something. And if you don't put a time on when you're going to do, you put a time on what time you're going to work, you put a time on what time you're going to eat supper, lunch. It's some, and it's crazy to me, and I don't want to make this sound like we're the only ones that don't have this problem. It's crazy to me. I love a schedule.
Yeah.
But whenever it comes to stuff like that, it's like, I just kind of, I don't know. And you are fine with scheduling meals and what we're going to do when, making plans, figuring out where we're going to be at this time. But when it comes to things of God, you're kind of like, well, I know it's on a Sunday, but what and you kind of miss the bigger picture of it, of saying, I'm really taking time and being intentional.
Yeah.
Because drifting away is the results of being unintentional.
Yep.
Being intentional is I'm putting my best foot forward in the right direction. And any step in the right direction is the good step. Absolutely. And really it's a hope of getting somebody, myself included, out of la la land of saying, I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants and just try to make it.
Yeah.
And really being intentional of saying, I've kind of backed off a little bit. I haven't been as structured as I have been in the past. And really setting yourself a good foundation to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
And again, it's in the distractions. It's in the small things.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of times something big and grand. We see a lot of times big and grand, oftentimes even being bad things, push people closer to Christ. Yeah. It's the I want to do whatever I can for Christ, but then over time, one little decision over one little decision over one little decision. And we've had people that we know that we don't know where they're at anymore.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ever a time where they said, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
It was just a time where they said, I'm willing to replace God for right now. Yeah. And it's dangerous not catching yourself there. It's human to catch yourself and say, okay, I need to get back on track. It's not making you less spiritual of a person by saying, hey, I need to get myself in check here. It's making you human being to get yourself to say, man, I really dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah.
But it's neglect when you start saying, I know I need to get around to it.
Yeah.
But we both know I'm not going to.
Oh.
And it's what can you do to make the right steps?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just being honest. A lot of what we're talking about today is just you getting to a place of acknowledging things.
Yeah.
And
it's okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's where we live in. It's either shame, we're afraid to admit where it is. Maybe we think God's going to be disappointed with us, when the reality is God already knows what's going on. Whatever it is, until you can get to the place where you acknowledge where the time's going or what you're giving it towards or anything like that, or that you are drifting. Of course, as we get further into this, if you cannot acknowledge those things, all of this stuff is going to be very, very hard to move forward with, in your life. But again, those schedules, the distractions, all that stuff is one of those things of saying, I've just got to be intentional with things. Yeah. And you can't, I said it, I think a couple weeks ago on one of the episodes, if we were as structured in our Christian life as we are in so many other places, our Christian life would be phenomenal. Because we understand, like you said earlier, you love structure, you love all that stuff. But if we're not careful, we just kind of hope it happens in our Christian life. Yeah. And it cannot be that way. If it's not going to by chance happen in every other place of life, it's not going to by chance happen in our Christian life. If we're going to be intentional in those other places, we got to be intentional with this. And it amazes me the disconnect. We can have it all put together on every other part of our life, and then wonder why our spiritual life is weak or not where we want it to be. The question is well, what are you doing with it? Yeah. How intentional are you being in that area of your life? And as we dig further through this, we're talking about again these things that we can start to see how it happens. One of the big things, and really, I think what we're seeing a lot of nowadays, again, these things that sin becoming justified or normalized in our lives. Again, these things, that place where the conviction fades, that place where things that bother us, used to bother us, again, these things don't bother us anymore. And when we start to get to the place where we start to justify what we're doing, we start getting to the place where we start to say things like, well, does God really mean that in the Bible? Does he really, these things that, does he really want me to do that? That's not what, society does. That's not how they do things today. Whatever phrase we want to use to justify it. But when we start to get to the place where we're not going to God to ask forgiveness for that sin, we're okay living in that sin, we start to justify what we're doing in our life, we start to get to this dangerous place where drifting is happening in our life because of those things left unchecked.
Yeah, I haven't checked with you, but I'm making the executive decision. At some point, we're gonna do a episode on like I moved it. Now it sounds weird. Do a episode on sin and conviction.
Oh yes.
Because this is something, not careful, you will take conviction and turn it into something that you never, you don't want to acknowledge anymore, of saying, I once said this was wrong for me, but now it's okay. And when we start doing that, I see a lot of times we start justifying things that, when we start justifying convictions that we have had, it becomes easier for us to start rejecting the fact that there are things that are blatantly sin.
Yeah.
And you start, I don't want to say condoning sin, because I don't believe anybody that's starting to drift, I believe you condone sin when you're fully in the wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't believe you start condoning sin, but you start not looking at it the same way Christ's looking at it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you want to look at sin as, this is what Christ hates, and I want to be far from it.
Yeah.
But when we start making excuses, or we start attempting, and a lot of times it's poor attempts, but start attempting to justify it, of saying, well, I can kind of get around it. I think a lot of times when we start justifying sin, I don't believe this is one of the things that starts to get us off track. I think this is something that we're downstream a little bit, and then we look, and it's what continues to propel us downstream.
Yeah.
Because I believe everybody knows the difference in right and wrong. And if you don't, dig into what the Bible really says about sin, and what the Bible really says about whatever topic you're thinking of. But if left unchecked, you will definitely accelerate your being okay with where you're at.
Yeah.
And continue that drifting. There's nothing that ever stays still.
Yeah.
You're either right or wrong. There is no middle ground. And trying to believe that there is middle ground puts you in the wrong category.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's something that we see a lot of times, because and even not careful, we can start questioning and saying, doth God really say that? And then you start saying, well, if that's not that bad, then what about this and this? And I know it sounds silly, but we all do it.
Oh yeah. Or I love, well, I'm not doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not as bad as them.
Yeah.
And so it's not about it's not about me trying to bring out the big stuff so I can get away with the little stuff. We got to get back to the place where just sin is sin.
Exactly.
But we do that.
Or again, it's not the full-fledged sin, but it's the progression towards it, of saying, me and my boyfriend, or me and my girlfriend, we do this, but we don't do that over there.
Oh yeah.
And justifying it was the same thing they did when they were in your spot.
Oh yeah.
And now you look at that as wrong. But there was a time where they would have looked at that as wrong.
Yeah.
And, it is something that the devil is very good at. One of the number one things he loves to do is question what did God really say? Did the Bible really say that? And if it's okay to ask those questions, but it's not okay to ask those questions and continue living life however you want to.
Yeah.
Ask those questions and find an answer for it. But it's scary, because conviction will start to fade. Things that used to bother you don't bother you anymore. Yeah. And life becomes this one big, I just don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous that I fear a lot of times when people hit this spot, they don't want to continue going back from where they came. But it's almost that prodigal of saying, it's going to have to get really bad for me to turn around. And one thing we were talking about, the prodigal son a while back, was at any time he could have turned around and went back.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to have every prodigal hit the absolute end of the road for them to decide I'm going back.
Yeah.
They could choose at any time to turn around and go back. But a lot of times we have our mindset on, I'm going to finish out what I've started. And whenever you've hit your end of your road, it will always be a disaster.
Yeah.
And it's a long way back to have to get to where you want to be. It's worth the walk. But why make that journey knowing you're going to have to come back?
Oh, yeah.
So sin and normalizing it is something that, is a big danger within teenagers. But I feel a lot of times it's a bigger danger within young adults, within young married couples, within, your middle-aged crowd, because they have influence over people that teenagers don't have.
Yeah.
They have where I can say it's not wrong, and younger people look up to them.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to answer one day for what they've led this person astray for.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have to be very careful in your personal walk. Is my steps affecting someone else's steps? That's what I love about Paul and believe me, I'm far from this. But Paul says, follow me as I'm following Christ. You follow me, because if you're following me, you're going to be following God. And having those, if someone is stepping in the footprints that you've left behind, where are they going?
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that in the drifting process, taking a hard look at yourself of saying, am I silencing this little inner voice inside me?
Yeah.
Am I trying to get away with this thing to please the flesh? And really taking heed to it.
Yeah. Well, it's what we're seeing through this is very much a progression.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily one of these things are over the other. Really, it's you're seeing it really from the little things up. We start to have the compromises. We start to replace the devotions. We get away from things. We don't give the time to God. We don't give the time in the Bible. Well, here's the thing. If you're not spending time with God and you're not spending time in the Bible, you're replacing those things with other things.
Yeah.
With distractions, with all of this other stuff. It is so much easier to start justifying that sin or stop caring about what you're doing or whether it's going against God when you're not spending time with God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. And so, again, we're looking at this thing as a process in our life. Like you just said, it doesn't happen today. You don't leave it in a day and you don't come back in a day. It's a process that happened. Some people spot it sooner than others. Some people it takes them a while. But most of the time, more times than not, you see this progression happen in their life. And so, as we start to normalize sin, this next thing we're talking about, we see this happen. Our community starts to fade. You start to see people justifying sin. They start to get away from the people that can help them maybe see their errors or see their wrongs. I remember, I think one of the biggest things I saw this when I was growing up, the family that lived behind me, they had a son named Jason. And Jason was that kid that, man, we just was like, everybody's like, man, I want to be like him. Like, he was just a good kid, on fire for the Lord, faithful to church, all that stuff. Started seeing that progression, started seeing him disconnect. And before you know it, it wasn't just that he wasn't around people. He literally just moved away. And I got to talk to him later on. and kind of through a lot of his story. And it was just this, he knew it, knew what was wrong, all this stuff, but he wasn't ready to get rid of it. He
Yeah.
had justified it. He had made it okay. And I truly believe he got away from a lot of people because he didn't want to be reminded of that stuff.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep going in it without that constant reminder or checkup of, are you where you need to be? And so our community starts to fade. The people that God could use to help us, it is not a coincidence that when people start drifting, they start disconnecting as well.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. You start to see them drift. You can see the progression in their life. Before you know it, like for us as youth leaders, we start to see them miss more Wednesdays. We start to see them, miss other things. They start to put other things in its place as far as, either church or ministry. And they start distancing themselves from people that can be a good influence in their life and can help them maybe get back on track, or God could use them to get back on track. And we see that, we see them to stop showing up. We see them, I've seen it in discipleship groups where they stop opening up. They stop talking about things. They just get silent and they're just kind of to themselves. It is that progression that you see of, okay, I've let things distract me. I'm not as devoted as I once was. I'm justifying those things because I'm justifying those things. I don't want to be reminded of those things, and so I'm going to just start pulling away from those things that can help me. And you was just talking about the prodigal. Obviously, the feelings that he had didn't just happen the day he asked his dad for the money. There were feelings that he had that were building.
Yeah.
And obviously, thankful for that story, thankful for how God has used that story. But you could also say, what could the son's life have been if he had just stayed in the community he was in and somebody could have helped him get away from those feelings. And that's the thing I think that's hard especially for me to see as a youth leader, is I'm not asking teens to be perfect. I never will be, or I never will. I'm not asking them to, I'm not saying they're not going to have problems. I'm not saying they're not going to get distracted. I'm not saying they're not going to have sin in their life. I'm not saying they're not going to have as strong a walk at times as they do others. But what really breaks my heart, and when I really start to see this progression accelerate, I'll say, is when that happens.
Yeah.
When they start disconnecting from the community and the people that God could use to bring them back, it's almost like it throws it into high gear, and before you know it, they're out the door.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I wish I wish whenever you said, I'm going to sign up to be a youth worker, I'm going to sign up to be a youth pastor, you have this magical ability to just not let any of them leave.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you just have this ability
Short
to
of locking the door.
you have this ability to say, this is what the Lord has for you, and this is what the world has for you. You take your pick right now. And you start seeing they'll take the temporary over playing the long game, because the temporary is fun for right now.
Yeah.
But it is sad when you start to see them wanting and longing to come back, but that sense of community they feel like won't accept them anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day.
That's a whole nother episode there.
Of, feeling like I don't connect with these people anymore.
Yeah.
Or they've known what I've done, and they won't accept me. And the reality is kind of what we talked about last week. We don't go to church for a person, but we go to church for Christ.
Yeah.
And whether they accept you or not, continue going. but seeing that drift of saying I can kind of make my own community. And kind of a side note with that, I have felt like in my life I don't have those people that I can have a community with.
Yeah.
One of the best things I ever did was realize that if knowing that the devil has a community for me if I'll choose that one, knowing that Christ has a community too if I'll ask for it.
Wow.
And really what I started doing was two things: praying for people and also being a person that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
And one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, if you don't feel like you have a friend, be the best friend to somebody.
Yeah.
And we see, well, I've seen in my life, others choose to be that person that they don't have.
Yeah.
And it really start to build a community within that group.
Yeah.
And there's people you're one of my best friends. People saying you're not on the right track here is going to help me way more than me disconnecting from you and finding someone that will say you're doing what your heart wants you to do, or you're doing what you want to do. And again, you're going to have people that are going to say yes to everything, but finding those people that'll say, hey, you're not matching up like you used to, is crucial and critical for a good Christian walk of having those people, those Nathans in your life, of saying you're not doing, because there's times as the youth pastor you want to be going directly to those people and say, hey, get your act together.
Yeah.
But the reality is the son left and the father never chased.
Mm-hmm.
They said, I've got to let him come to himself. That father could force the prodigal back in, but it would have been only a matter of time until he's got to come to himself. And that's something that I hate that I've prayed for before, of Lord, just speed that process up to get them to come to their senses and say, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And you really see it whenever they distance from a church community. The devil's going to have a community for you.
Yeah.
It's which one are you looking for? And you can never say, I feel like I'm alone, because if you ever say, I feel like I'm alone out loud, I think the devil's ears perk up a little bit and he goes, I've got somebody for you. But really asking, Lord, would you give me somebody in my life that I can be a friend to, and they can be a friend to? They can be a friend to me. And I believe the Lord will answer that prayer.
Yeah. Well, arguably, the people that have made some of the biggest impact in my life were not yes people. They were people that were willing to tell me what I needed to hear, and the reality is if I had disconnected from those people, I maybe wouldn't have heard the answers that I needed to hear that would have jump-started that process of getting back to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's more dangerous just disconnecting altogether than being willing to hear the hard answers, to hear the hard advice, the thing that, as we say, steps on toes a little bit. But again, you see that more and more, and what I said earlier, when I see it accelerate, when I see them really at this point in that process, I see them drift the fastest away from God when that starts to happen. Because they may not be in their Bible, they may not be praying like they need to be, they may be distracted by things. And I've been in those places.
Yeah.
I've been in those places. And even though I wasn't praying like I was supposed to, even though I wasn't reading my Bible like I was supposed to, I truly believe one of the things that helped get me out of certain situations was I had a community that was doing that for me. I had people that were seeking God for me to help me. I had people that were praying for me. I had people that were willing to tell me what I needed to hear to get me out of that situation. And again, I've seen it in the church here. People that I've started to see the drift, and you could see it. Started to see the disconnect. Started to see them getting closer to the door, for lack of a better word. And then they start to shut off to everybody, and before you know it, it's just they're gone.
Yeah.
Because they're getting, like you said, they're replacing the community that could be a help for them with the community that is just going to tell them what they want to hear, tell them what they want to see, show them what they want to see, tell them what they want to hear, make them feel good, right? Accepted whatever may be in that moment, and they're going to go with that over the people that are going to be honest with them. And when they start to get around the community that just tells them what they want to hear, they start coddling those feelings and all that stuff, and again, kind of leading into this next thing, that starts to lead them more than their faith leads them.
Yeah.
They start getting into not truth, not what the Bible says, not God's promises or anything like that. They start getting into those feelings, and then it's just that feel good. I don't feel God in this. I don't feel God in that, and they really start to go out the door there. And again, kind of leading. Well, I just I feel like it should be this, or I don't feel like it should be that, and drifting starts when I say drifting, kind of leading. That drifting gets worse and worse and worse when our feelings become what guides us. Again, kind of leading rather than the truth that guides us.
Yeah.
That place where we live in what makes us feel good, or what we feel justifies us, then rather than the truth that could help change some things in our life.
Yeah. There's been a lot of Facebook fights started over this point right here.
Oh yeah.
A lot of podcasts being started, and and I make no apologies about calling living in your feelings wrong.
Yes.
Because it's caused a lot of people to have a form of godliness and really not help anything for the cause of Christ, but really push people farther away and justify people's sin even more. When you start saying, I base my entire life off of my moral compass. And when you do that, you start saying, I am the ruler of what is right and wrong, and I am the one that has the final say, and I am the one that can dictate, you can say this and you can't say that, or you can do this but you can't do that. And you start becoming your own God. And a lot of times the dangerous part is people that start getting followers from that start looking at them as God. And it quickly morphs into a power trip. I don't believe, now this is just my belief, I don't believe really anybody listening to this episode has got to 0.5.
Yeah.
If you are, amen. But I don't think or be so scared or second guess yourself into saying, man, am I living my life based off of feelings, not faith? Because I would second guess myself if I was listening to this. This is a progression where you have done little things and it's the snowball effect.
Yeah.
Those things have just continued rolling downhill and downhill and downhill to where I have heard some great Christians at one time make some outlandish statements because they've reached this point.
Yeah.
And any of us are susceptible to it. There's nobody that's disqualified from drifting this far away from Christ.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if you would have told them that this is what you're going to become one day, they would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
But it's the slow progression of saying, this is something and this is something, and finally getting to the spot of saying, you know, I don't feel God anymore, so therefore He's not there. Or, is God really there? Does God really care? Did God doth God really say this?
Yeah.
And you become okay with your feelings and not the truth. And you become okay with oftentimes expressing your feeling instead of living in truth.
Yeah.
And I don't want any of the listeners to think, oh my gosh, I'm in this spot. But I want them to be careful of this group of people that say, I love Jesus, but I do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes their life looks a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you say, I can base my life off of these people, but what are they living their life? What is the fruit of their life? Does it match up to God's word, or does it match up to what they've said? And be very careful. Again, you want to accelerate that drift. Surround yourself with the people that have already lost touch with reality.
Yeah.
And you might be at number 3, and you'll be at 5 before you know it.
Yeah.
Just by listening to these people they sound good. What they're saying seems to work.
Yeah.
But they don't have any meat to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So it's something that I see a lot of times on social media. People get on Facebook and sharing posts or fighting in a comment section, and believe everybody sees what you post on Facebook. Everybody sees what you comment.
Yeah.
Be careful what you do on there.
I know, it amazes me the people that post on social media. They're like, I wonder how somebody found that out. Well, you put it out there for everybody.
Well, it's like I have people that I'm friends with on Facebook that comment on things that I don't even follow that person, but I'll see their comment pop up.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, what you doing in there? Like, you ain't got no business being in there.
Oh yeah.
But we try to play the prodigal's father and try to go get people so many times instead of just letting God do His job.
Yeah.
That we start getting ourselves into a mess. But it's something that we start seeing more and more of influencers finding Christ.
Yeah.
And them having this revelation. And praise the Lord if they are. But a lot of times we start seeing them progress in the wrong direction. And when that starts happening, they have a lot of followers all of a sudden that start imitating what they've done.
Yeah.
And it's a scary reality.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One of the things that we've got to understand with drifting is, before it ever really manifests in your life, as far as being seen publicly, it's going to be something that starts privately.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things that, again, like you talked about earlier, internally we start questioning, we start wondering, we start doubting God in ways. Did He really mean this? Does God really want this for my life? And it's going to be, again, one of the tough sides. Go back to the prodigal. I would just have to believe that the prodigal had those thoughts way before he ever asked his dad for his inheritance.
Yeah.
And it goes back with us. I've said this before. I've been in ministry a while now, to where I've seen people make this big scene leaving a church, like some big commotion. Maybe not literally at times, but I've seen people get loud about it. They're like, I'm done. I'm gonna go find me a good church. They were done way before they ever sat back. Yeah. I've had members like, what happened, preacher? We need to try. I was like, look, if it was that easy for them to leave like that off
Yeah.
of something that to us didn't seem a big deal, they were done.
Yeah.
They were done. It was something that happened on the inside, something that internally was working on them. And they got to that place where they're just like, well, I'm going to let this be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It was already something that was going on in life. And it's the same way with us as we drift. If you're starting to see those things happen internally in your life, it's at those moments that you want to start asking yourself, well, what is going on in my life? What is happening spiritually in my life that is causing me to have these feelings, to get to this place? And kind of looking at some of the things we were talking about when we start to lose that hunger for God. That honestly, that should be a big sign of something going on in life. When we start to lose a hunger for God, when we start to lose that appetite that we once had for the Word of God, when we don't have that excitement maybe to go to church anymore, or we don't, whatever it may be, that should be a telltale sign of something that's going on in our life. It's kind of like that person that we've all know that person, or maybe we are that person that if somebody like really loves to eat, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm not hungry, and it's like been a while or it's dinner time, you're like, what is wrong with them? I'll say on the flip side of that, not with eating, but obviously I talk a lot.
Drinking.
Okay. Yeah, I talk a lot, which is part of what I do. My wife always jokes and says that she's waiting on me after Sunday mornings because I'm talking to everybody. It really messes with her if we go somewhere and she's doing more talking than me. I'll never forget a few years ago, we went to a birthday party for one of our friends' kids in the gym here at the church. And I sat down, and I literally, from the time I walked in to the time we left, I pretty much sat in the same seat the whole time. And she's just off mingling, talking to people, like, really, we almost like we flopped roles a little bit. And we get in the car, she's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you didn't talk to anybody. And I was like, I don't know. I just, wasn't feeling it today or whatever it may be. But, again, I say that jokingly. If we had that hunger for God, if we had that excitement, that zeal, that, man, I want to get all that I can, and all of a sudden you start to realize that hunger's not there, or it's I don't have to take as much in, or I'm not getting as much, then start to ask yourself those questions. Start asking yourself, what's taking that, what's causing that to happen in my life? Because it could be that that's the start of drifting. If your Bible feels dry, if you're in church and you're feeling like your worship isn't what it wants. I'm not saying every once in a while you're not going to have a day where it doesn't feel like the week before, but if it's on a consistent basis, that Bible's dry, or our worship is not there anymore, we don't have a desire to do it, that may be a sign. Start asking yourself those things again. Just be honest about the stuff.
It's not to say that every time we open our Bible, we have doves descend and an angel opens his scroll and gives us this revelation of and it's preach this Sunday. That's not there's going to be times where we can kind of say, why is this happening to us? I think we would be not that by no means are we more spiritual, but we could kind of find the results of that pretty quick, of saying, okay, I know what I did. I know I need to get right. I know what's happened here. I know what my viewpoint on this person has been recently. I kind of know that's the reason I'm not quite where I need to be right now. But there is flags that should be going up, of putting a stop to it really quick, of saying, yes, I think of Jonah whenever he's continuously fleeing, and they said, does somebody have some? And he's like, yeah, just I know it's me. He continues going in the wrong direction, but he knew he was the problem. And we see a lot of times where people say, I know what the problem is, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And you have to, when you start seeing flags or red flags, definitely in a person, but if you start seeing red flags jump up in your life of, kind of the warning signals go off, find out what the problem is instead of just living and being okay with being okay.
Yeah.
It's something that is there to not hurt you, but again, those guide rails of saying you need to kind of scooch over just a little bit and just continue on the right track.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's so simple. If we just say, well, why haven't I felt like reading my Bible the last couple of weeks, or however long it's been? I mean, again, it don't have to be. You're not talking about the day. It's not like if today I read read my Bible study, and then tomorrow I didn't. But oh my goodness, I'm just backslid and all this stuff, and I'm just away. It's not saying that, but if it's been some time, if you realized, man, it's been a while since I have really experienced God's presence in church.
Yeah.
Especially if you have service where other people are getting it.
Yeah.
Again, just ask those things. I promise you this: God's not going to be disappointed in you by asking those things.
Yeah.
He's not going to be ashamed in you for asking those things.
Anything that's a step closer to Christ, He would love for you to ask.
Yeah. I mean, again, God knows everything. God knows we're human. God knows we're going to go through those times of dryness and things like that. It's just leaving those things unchecked. That's going to continue the drift.
Yeah. That's
the thing. We don't want the drift to continue. We want, as early as we can, be able to catch it so that we can do something against it. Again, it's whether it's dry, whether it's feeling distant from God. You're, again, wondering why you haven't, felt Him or experienced Him in your life, or can really acknowledge that last time that you were close to Him and you don't know why. God, it's not, we've talked about this in this episode earlier, it's not a rebellion, it's just that emptiness. Why does that, why do I feel like that's happening in my life? I'm just not close to Him, and just feeling like I'm doing all I can. God, nothing's filling me up, nothing's bringing me joy, nothing's bringing me satisfaction in this life. Any of those things, when they start to happen in this life, we've got to start asking the necessary questions. We start to justify things instead of repent. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. We say it's not that big a deal where everyone's doing it. All of those are excuses that we may find ourselves making when we get into a drift of, I'll be fine, it's no big deal. And then again, before you know it, you've gone further than you intended to go, or you've drifted further away from God more than you intended to drift.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thinking about that, kind of different ways to illustrate it. It's kind of like our boys. We go to the beach, and you know how it is. You get in the water, and they're jumping and all this stuff and having fun. And before you know it, you're way down. You're way down the beach.
And it's a long walk.
It's a long way. And it's one of those things that if they would just do, if every once in a while they would just take a check in that, it wouldn't be as bad as what it is.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with this. It's not, again, it's not saying God doesn't want us to live this life. It's not saying God doesn't want us to enjoy this life. But living this life, with living this life comes having to evaluate things. It comes with having to take a check on things to make sure we're where we need to be in our Christian life. And so we don't get way down there and then you got to do all this work to get back.
Yeah.
Just take a check every once in a while and ask yourself, am I where I need to be? Big one that we see when we talk about this is we start to build this identity outside of Christ, where we kind of have our social identity more than our spiritual identity. When we resonate more with everything else around us than we resonate with the Bible or connect with the Bible, or what God has for us, and we have more connection with either what we used to be or what this world is than what God has us to be. Again, all of those are things that can be. We're not saying it's all in that order. It looks exactly like that for everybody. But all of those are things that can be what drifting looks like in our lives. Big one was, kind of jotted down. We stopped fighting for our faith. We stopped really making a progression in this faith. We just kind of get indifferent about our faith and whether God's using us or not. I was talking about that in our ethics class the other day, of just whether God uses me or not. I'm okay. It's just kind of meh.
Yeah.
And all of those things are warning signs of drifting in our life, and the quicker we can see those things, the quicker we can acknowledge those things. And that's what a big thing we're about to get into. But the quicker we can acknowledge that, the less potential we have to drift away from God.
Yeah. You talking about the beach a little bit. We went last year, and were y'all there last year?
Oh, it was,
that was
yeah,
last year.
that was bad. It was,
and
like,
I mean, the waves were insane.
Yes.
And of course, me and some others, we've got to go out there. It's not like it was. I mean, the waves were so crazy. You would be on top of a wave, and then it would take you where there's no hope for touching the bottom, to the wave going all the way back down, and it's like up to your knee, and then the wave would pick you all the way back up and just take. And it felt like you were staying in the same spot. It never felt like we were moving.
Yeah.
But we're looking off into the distance. We got the beach behind us, and we're just looking for that next wave to come up, because we all got our little what are they called?
The boogie boards.
Boogie boards, and we're not standing up on them. We're just like laying on them, and we just keep looking out. We keep looking out, and we would finally see one off in the distance, and it would look like a great wave, and it would crash right in front of us or crash too late, and so we'd go under, and we would just sit there, and we were just bobbing on the water, and we would finally catch one. And I remember the first one that we first wave that we really caught and rode in, we get back to the shore, and I look around, and I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at right now. And I remember seeing this little umbrella, and I was like, they are so far from where we started at, and it never felt that way.
Yeah, I remember looking up, and it was like this hike back for y'all from wherever far down y'all were.
I mean, we ended up giving up because we were tired of walking. So what we ended up doing was walking farther down the coast.
Yeah.
Getting on and then riding the wave
back to where we
were,
yeah.
And then but it started happening when we just started being content with just being okay.
Yeah.
And just being complacent of saying, I'm not hurting anything. I'm just sitting here.
Oh, yeah. I'll be fine, all that stuff.
And before we knew it, we were farther than what we wanted to be.
Yeah.
And with that comes a lot of danger of being susceptible to any of those things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
And drifting looks like you stop swimming. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Drifting is saying, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And drift naturally starts happening. It's not something that you've got to start swimming to drift. It's you have to do nothing to drift.
Oh, yeah.
And really recognizing that the drift is naturally going to happen. You don't have to say, I choose not to read my Bible today, and that's when the drift happens. If you stop swimming at any time, you're going to have drift.
Yeah.
And really, whenever you start seeing those, kind of what we're about to get into with, how do you come back from being so far gone? Or how do you come back from even just being off a day?
Yeah.
What is that? What does the comeback look like?
Yeah. And us, we love the practical side of this. We love kind of getting you to that place of how to, come back from again, because we don't want to end the episode with just all right, everybody's doing wrong.
You're messed up.
And
No, that's fine.
bye. We'll see you later. You know. But again, one of the first things we're looking at here as far as how to come back, because one thing we want you to understand today, you can, again, talking about the prodigal. I love that piece of scripture. When he came to himself, right? Everybody can have that moment. Everybody can have that moment of, you know what? I am not where I need to be. Yeah. I'm tired of just living in the feelings. I'm tired of feeling disconnected. I'm tired of not being close to God like I once was. And I'll say it from like we said at the beginning, not talking about a rebellion. If this was a rebellion, this episode would be more of, did you know him in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
If it was about just open rebellion, I can leave God without any hesitation, and I'm done. See you later. No remorse, none of that stuff, no conviction. Then we'd be getting into a whole nother side of this. We're talking about drifting, where there was a time you were serving God. There was a time you were living for Him. There was a time you were being intentional in your life, but for some reason, you let either some distractions or some distance or things happen in your life, and before you know it, you're not where you want to be. You can get to that place of coming to yourself and saying, all right, what is necessary for me to get back?
Yeah.
What is necessary for me to get back to the place that God has for me in my life? And we talked about it a little bit, alluded to it earlier, and what we're getting into now, recognize it. Mm-hmm. Be honest. If you cannot be honest with where you're at, you're never going to get to the place where you see the need to come back. Yeah. You've got to get honest with yourself. And again, it's not being honest to make God aware of something. It's you being honest with yourself. God knows where you're at. God knows the distance that is between you and Him. God knows what is happening in your life and why things look the way they do. You just got to be honest with yourself, because it's when you can get honest with yourself is when you're willing to do what is necessary to get back to that place that God has for you. It's going to be very hard for you to come back if you're not willing to admit you've drifted.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be hard for that. It's to say, okay, I've drifted. I'm not where I need to be, and so I need to start doing what's necessary to get back to the place that God has for my life. You've got to recognize it. That's the first and foremost thing, is honesty in the midst of your situation.
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's a lot of problems in general can be solved with just you being honest and you saying, yep, this is what it's came to, and recognize it. You have to reach a point where you say, this isn't what my life was meant for.
Yeah.
This isn't what I'm allowing to be the end of the road. This is the start of going home.
Yeah.
And recognize it and be honest with yourself and return just to simple obedience.
Yeah.
I can say I have a problem with anything in life, but until I almost relate it to being honest is the point where you turn around. That simple obedience, returning back to that, is the first step.
Yeah.
Is what stops you in your tracks is realizing, hey, I'm in the wrong. Mm-hmm. But really what puts that first foot in the right direction is just going back to simple obedience.
Yeah.
Going back to what you know you're supposed to do. And there's a lot of good Christians that we know that return to simple obedience. and have made strides way more than they ever had before they went the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And really not striving for perfection or getting back to where you decided to drift from in one day.
Yeah.
But taking those progressional steps of saying, these are the friends that I've picked up, and I'm choosing to leave them here.
Yeah.
This is the baggage that I've chose to pick up along the way. I'm choosing to let it down.
Yeah.
And I see this happen a lot with teenagers especially. Don't try to drift and bring everything back with you to try to get back to where you started drifting from.
Yeah.
It has to be I'm turning loose of everything. I'm turning loose of the friends. I'm turning loose of the community that I've made. I'm turning loose to the promises that some of them promised me. I'm turning loose to oftentimes relationships.
Yeah.
I'm turning loose of everything that is hindering me from getting back to the point that I drifted from, and really putting your best foot forward and continuing on for Christ.
Yeah. Well, it's just getting to that place of, like you said, that obedience of saying, all right, Lord, I'll do what's necessary for me to get back.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever you ask me to do. If it's just simple time back in my Bible, if it's getting back to my prayer life, and let's add to it an honest prayer life of being willing to admit to God how you feel, showing up to church, whatever those things are, it's just in obedience, doing what is necessary to start taking those steps back. You know, you go back to the beach when it was crazy. You didn't try to return by going back the same way you came. You know, I mean, I remember one day y'all were trying to swim back.
Yeah.
Like having fun, but y'all were trying to swim back. And y'all could, like, no matter how hard you paddled, no matter how hard you tried, you know, going back that same way wasn't going to get you where you wanted.
It was not an option.
No. So what did you have to do? You had to get out of the water. You had to do what was necessary to start taking those steps back. And it's the same way with this. You
had to leave my floaties there.
Yeah. Left the little water wings there, all that stuff. But it's being willing to say, all right, God, whatever's necessary.
Yeah.
If I gotta change my direction a little bit, if I gotta go down here and get out here and do, you know, it's whatever is necessary, and in obedience, I'll do what you ask me to do.
Yeah.
To get to the place that you want me to be. And again, in honesty and in obedience, we can start taking the necessary strides to get to that place that God has for me. You know, just be consistent with it. That's the thing. Don't look for big moments. I think so many people, they want, like we said at the beginning of the show, this episode, we want it to be fixed overnight. And that's not how it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's just consistency.
Yeah.
It's not in the big feeling moments. It's not. There's going to be times as you're rebuilding and as you're getting back to where God has for you, that it's going to feel like a monumental day in a good way. You're going to have a big breakthrough. You're going to have a big moment where God did something amazing in that restoration process. But there's going to be some days where it just feels little, and it feels small, and it doesn't feel much. But guess what? It's still heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, any step in the right direction is a good step. You getting back to the place God has for you isn't going to be possible by only having the mountaintop moments. Sometimes it's just going to be in the little steps, getting there. Yeah. And before you know it, you'll realize I've made more progress than what I thought. I think we think it's got to be big things for us to notice it. Sometimes we don't notice it at first, but before you realize it, man, again, just the same as drifting, before you realize it, you're further than what you thought. Little steps and consistency, you'll be able to look back and say, man, I'm not where I once was.
Yeah.
I'm not where I need to be yet.
Yeah.
I'm still getting there, but I'm a whole lot further than where I was when I started this process of getting back to Him.
Yeah. You never see the small things add up until time has passed.
Yeah.
And as quickly as you see the distance that you've drifted away, you can turn around one day and see the big difference just deciding to be consistent has affected your life.
Yeah.
And, again, we try to get all the way back to God and that relationship that we once had by reading all of a book in one night, or reading all of Proverbs in one night, or praying an extra long prayer. But the reality is, as we've said it over and over again, reading 2 verses and having the Lord speak to you is better than reading 200 and never hearing from Him.
Absolutely.
So being consistent is huge to return back to where you want to be in your Christian life. And again, something we haven't talked about, all of this is your choice. All of this is, if you want to continue drifting, continue doing nothing. If you want to say, I don't have a problem with this, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of if you're going to have this problem. It's a matter of how far you've gotten before you realize it. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's going to have this. Everybody is going to have drift.
Yeah.
It's the ones that say, it's not me, it's somebody else, I'm not as bad. It's all your choice.
Yeah.
And as much as it's your choice, it's your responsibility to say, I'm going to be consistent, and I'm choosing Christ over everything else, and I want to live a life of impact.
Yeah. Again, it's that coming to that place of I made a choice, whether I realized it or not, to start going that way. I've got to make a choice to start coming back.
Yeah.
Again, we make those choices. That choice could be simply, I'm just, I don't feel like reading today.
Yeah.
That choice could be as simple as, I'm just not feeling praying today. It's a choice nonetheless.
Yeah.
It's not an accidental thing.
Yeah.
But again, as little as that choice is, then, we don't realize how far it takes us. Again, you've got to make that choice coming back. And one of the things that, kind of getting down to the end here, I think is one of the biggest things I could say. I mean, a lot of it I think is, obviously all of it is going to be influential in you getting back to what God has for you. But we talked about this the other week, and one of the things I love about this part here is reconnect with the right people. Find you somebody that's going to help you get back. We talked about it the other week. Find that Barnabas in your life. Find that person that's going to encourage you.
Not Barabbas, Barnabas.
Not Barabbas. Nope, Barnabas. All right. Find that person that's going to help you.
Yeah.
Again, the people in my life that I can look back that helped me get back to where God wanted me to be was not the yes men, was not the people that just told me what I wanted to hear. It was the people that were willing to be honest with me because they loved me and pushed me towards God.
Yeah.
That said, hey, this is not what God has for you.
Yeah.
And God has so much better for your life. And if you'll just listen to Him, or, if you'll just, stop doing this and do that. Can I say this too? It's okay if you love somebody and you're a Christian and they're a Christian. It's okay to tell them that they're not in the right.
Yeah.
It's okay to tell them they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay out of love to tell them that that's sin. Let's clarify that. That's not a wrong thing. Okay, that's where we start skewing verses like "judge not that you be not judged." All right, that's not what that means. Okay, if you love somebody, right? If you truly love them as a brother and sister in Christ, and they're not doing right, Tell them.
Yeah.
They need that. Okay? All right? I am thankful that I had people that were willing to tell me that. I shared it in season 1 of my buddy Ben that sat across the table from me and said, if you keep going down this road, I can't sing on stage with you. You're going to have to step down from the group, and we can't minister together because of what you're doing. I needed that.
Yeah.
It stunk at the time. I didn't want to hear it, but I needed it.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. If you love them, okay, if you truly love them as a brother and sister in Christ, tell them that you're concerned for their life.
Yeah.
Tell them you're concerned in how they're living and the decisions that they're making.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's their choice to do with it what you tell them. But again, I believe that's part of the benefits of this body of Christ that we're in. Is it's like this. If I have, if a part of my body is hurting, if I were to smash my thumb with a hammer, right, then my body's going to tell me that that's hurting, right? It's not going to be like, well, that part of my brain is not going to be like, well, if I don't tell them, it's going to go away. No, I still smashed my thumb, right? It's telling me, it's making me aware. Find those people that are going to help you, and that get around people that are going to push you towards God, help you in your faith, and really try to protect what God has for you. Yeah. And we've got to have those people in our life. And all of this is part of getting back to what God has for us.
Yeah. I think tying all of this episode in to one thing is remember who God is.
Yeah.
Remember that He is there to help you. He is there to guide you. He is there to not hurt you, but help you live the best life that's going to have the most impact for Him.
Yeah.
And He truly does love you.
Yeah.
No matter how far you've gone, no matter what you've done or you didn't do, there's nothing that can ever separate you from the love of God.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more than that Father wanted than to see His Son just walk down the road.
Yeah.
And realizing who God is, realizing that He didn't move, you did. Yeah. And realize that He's wanting you to come back.
Yeah.
That's when we see restoration, impact, and a testimony that lives for Christ.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, again, drifting is one of those things, we've said it so many times, it can happen to all of us. We're not coming into this episode of saying if you do this it won't happen.
Yeah.
The whole premise of this episode was that let's stop it before it gets as worse as it has to be.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to drift. Again, talking about, whether you talk about the beach, whether you talk about a boat, whatever it may be. Yeah. When you stop moving, right? Even out in the middle of a lake and you think it's still water, that boat's going to drift. Yeah. Out in the middle of an ocean, you think the water's calm, we're still going to drift. It's not that it's not going to happen. It's just how can we keep it from being as bad as it possibly could be and get back to that place of what God has for us in our life. So, again, drifting is slow. It's not an overnight thing. But here's the beauty of it. Today can be the start of you getting back to what God has for you.
Yep.
Again, on the same time, or the same token, that's not overnight either. It's going to be a part of a process. But if you're willing to be honest, if you're willing to do what's necessary, willing to be obedient, then you can start finding yourself taking the steps towards what God has for you in your life. So guys, we love y'all, praying for you, and we hope you get to that place that God has for you in your life.
Appreciate y'all. Shout out Josh. Yeah, I didn't forget about you.